Hello and welcome to all of you worthless viewers. Okay, I'm done with all the heel Matty Omega stuff. I'm still Matty Omega because I'm always pumping out 6-star classic matches, you hear? But I'm done with all that heel stuff because yeah, it didn't work out too well last season, and as you could tell by my violent coughing, I actually have the flu, so doing all that maniacal laughing is probably not going to bode too well for me trying to record this video. So, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? You got Matty Brolic here, back for the first week of the National Pokeball League Season 8. I am back as your Los Angeles Reshirams, and we are here for what is almost definitely going to be our final season in the NPL. Like I mentioned in my draft analysis, it's definitely my last season for a while. If I ever come back, that I couldn't guarantee or not, but at least for now, I am going to be taking a break for a while from the National Pokeball League. So, without further ado though, we will get into this coming season and what we have going on for week 1. So here you guys can see I am showing some of the doc, and you can see some of the teams here. These are the teams that will be going into week 1 if anyone's made transactions at this point, because this video is being recorded probably about 2 weeks before the season actually starts and gets uploaded. These are the teams that you will see for week 1 at the very least. So we have some pretty scary teams this season. On the screen, you can see both mine and Gypsy's teams, and Gypsy has a godly team over here. It looks really, really solid. Like, there's some Pokemon that you don't see too often in the format, kind of down here, Quagsire, Vileplume, Hypno, Avalugg, but they're pretty good Pokemon, especially in the hands of someone like Gypsy, who's so good with getting creative, especially with bulky Pokemon. So that plus his God Squad up here is looking really, really good. But I'm not going to sit here and go over all of the teams. I'm going to go over my own week 1 matchup. Just wanted to give a shout out to my boy because his team looks so good. But yeah, we're going to go over my own week 1 matchup really quickly. I'll go over the matchup, my team build quickly, and then we will get right into the game. So here, as you can see, this is my squad. We have Z Celesteela. We have Latios, Azumarill, Nidoking, Dhelmise. If you hear that jingling in the background, that's just my dog playing with her toy. Raikou, Swellow, Licky Licky, Z Musharna, Lapras, Mega Tyranitar, and Unmonferno down here. And I'm pretty happy with my draft. I think it's definitely quite solid. It doesn't seem to be too weak in any real department. You know, it seems like it's got the tools to cover most important assets that you'd want on a squad, and definitely has a lot of Pokemon that are proven to be good in the format, as well as Pokemon that I have a good amount of experience with and I'm comfortable using in the format, which is also important because you know, having comfortability with good Pokemon just leads to good prep and good playing. So that is my team. I'm definitely very happy with it. But we are actually going up against another God Squad this first week 1 of the season, and it is against none other than my arch nemesis, Cheeseboy628. So let me scroll over to his team real quick, and I'll scroll down a little bit. There you go, Cheeseboy628 over here. Look at his squad. Like, Cheese normally drafts kind of unorthodox types of teams that look really weird at first, but then at least they always end up having a pretty good matchup against me. But they generally end up, you know, being more solid than they initially look. Because back then he used to draft these really hyper-offensive squads, but it seems like he's kind of strayed away from that ever since NPL Season 5, where he drafts something a little bulkier. In NPL Season 7 last season, he had a pretty bulky team. It was like Heatran, Sylveon, Mega Titar, Raikou, Amoonguss, Donphan, just a bunch of bulky Pokemon on his team without a ton of speed and power. I actually have a handful of things that he had last season. I have Mega Tyranitar, Swellow, and Raikou. He had those 3 last year. But yeah, so he has always been drafting these somewhat unorthodox teams that end up being pretty solid, but this time he just drafted a straight-up terrifying team. I don't know how he got... Because Jirachi, I always believe is a little bit overrated, because some people will pick it like really high in the first round. I don't think it's that great, but of course it's an excellent Pokemon, great typing, amazing versatility, and could just do so much. So it's a great Pokemon, and he got it round 1, but he got Kyurem Black in round 2, which is just insane. Tapu Bulu, which I think is also overrated, but I think it's overrated for people that pick it first round or even second round. Third round, I think, is where Bulu belongs, and I do think it's a pretty good Pokemon when you have good team support for it. So he's got the Tapu Bulu, which is obviously amazing in some matchups. If you don't have Pokemon that could easily eat up grass attacks, then you are in trouble, and Bulu is pretty versatile, so can't really sleep on it too much. Sorry about that. You may have to bear with me with the coughing and everything. I just wanted to get this upload out of the way and also show how sick I was when I played and you know, recorded for this match, because it was not fun. So he's got Volcanion, which I think is a really good Pokemon. Some people seem to be not too sold on it, but amazing stats, really good typing, great power and coverage, and if you can keep rocks off the field, then it is, I think, a monster. And him having Tapu Bulu makes Volcanion a little bit more sturdy on the defensive side, not being as weak to Earthquake anymore. So, good call there on his part. Then he got Gigalith round 5, which was like, you know, really early for Gigalith, but you knew he was probably going to pick up Stoutland later on, which you can see down there. He's got the Hawlucha, which is a great pick because Hawlucha, with a terrain user, is just one of those Pokemon where you can know exactly what it does, but it's just hard to stop because it's just very good at what it does. Very, very good at what it does. So, next up he's got Rotom, regular Rotom, solid Pokemon. Stoutland, which is amazing. Stoutland is so good. Tentacruel, very solid poison type, one of the better rapid spinners in the format. It gives him access to Toxic Spikes, which is nice. Spiritomb, which is something that you don't see used too often in the format, but I'm curious to see what he does with that this season. He got a meme pick, which is Aron, but I think most people know how scary Fear Aron can be. So it's that type of thing where you kind of have to prep for it in some way, because if he brings it, you could just very well lose to it. So that is an annoying little meme pick, because even if he never brings it, most people should pack something for it, because if they don't, it could end up being their demise easily. And then finally he went with Mega Steelix as his Mega Pokemon, which I think was a very good pick, because I think Mega Steelix is a lot better than a lot of people give it credit for. Only getting it for 6 points I think is a steal, especially because he got it with sand support. And it's just an excellent ground type. It checks most electrics fantastically, has great power, amazing coverage, and ability to set up rocks pretty easily. My dog is literally licking my mouse pad on my laptop. She's crazy. So he has a straight up terrifying team. It is so scary. And even though my team is really good, it's just a volatile matchup, because it's that type of scenario where it's hard for me to prep for everything he can bring. So I need to kind of build a team that's pretty middle grounded around what he could have, out of all the possibilities he could bring, because there are so many things I could potentially lose to if I don't prep or play around them accordingly. So it's going to be a very tough matchup. I have some really good threats against him, but his synergy is amazing and his breaking power is also amazing. So it's going to be a tough matchup, especially with how unpredictable Cheese tends to be. So let's get into the team builder portion. As here we will start it off with bring Selly up the Celesteela, and very basic EV spread here, just max physical defense. I'm not going to get into the spreads all too much, but this one just basically physically defensive, checks a fair amount, or actually a lot of his team. It probably checks around half of his team members pretty solidly with this set. And something like a Life Orb Stoutland will have trouble breaking a max physically defense Celesteela. So even though I could have put some EVs elsewhere, I figured that going in physical defense would be nice, because even a Life Orb Wild Charge from Stoutland has trouble 2-hit KOing a max defense Celesteela, making it, especially if I can get up a Leech Seed, making it essentially a very good defensive check to Stoutland. which could otherwise threaten my team very heavily. So that is why I went with this set. Heavy Slam is generally a solid move against his team. It's important to have for Tapu Bulu. What else is it important for? It's kind of nice for Kyurem Black because it means Kyurem Black can't sub on it, but Kyurem can avoid 2-hit KOs from it. So I do need to be careful just trying to stay in on a Kyurem Black because if it has something like Hone Claws, then it could potentially set up on me. Although, if it's not sub, then Leech Seed plus Heavy Slam will do more than 50%. But still, just need to be a little careful of that. Air Slash is very important for the Hawlucha because I could live a +2 high jump kick from around 75% or more. So, if that is the case and I'm able to keep my Celesteela healthy enough, then I can knock it out with an Air Slash, or at least come very close to it if it's at max HP. After Rocks, it's almost a guaranteed OHKO unless he's running way more bulk than I'm expecting. So next up we have Meruem, the Nidoking. Nidoking has a really good offensive matchup against Cheese's team. He just really does not have good switch-ins to Nidoking, but the reason it's not as godly as it seems is just because it brings in the Kyurem Black, which is probably one of the best Pokemon against my team entirely. You know, there's just... Kyurem Black is almost impossible to switch into for most teams, but the fact that he has access to Z moves just makes it so much harder because even something like a Mega Tyranitar, I can't hold berries like a regular Tyranitar, so something like a Z Focus Blast could easily just blow me away. And the rest of my team just really does not switch too well into Kyurem Black either. So that is one of the problems with Nidoking here, but its offensive matchup is just so good that I had to bring it pretty much. I went with a Life Orb, enough speed for a Adamant Kyurem Black or Naughty or whatever type of unboosting nature, and I have Stealth Rocks on this set because I didn't really need a 4th coverage move, and Sub was a potential option, but I just wanted to be able to lift some hits from around full or after Stealth Rocks, which is why I have a little bit of bulk on this Nidoking, so that's why I figured Substitute wasn't really that worth it, because I just want to come in and I mostly just want to attack with this thing, not mess around with Substitute. So next up we have Brock Lesnar, the Mega Tyranitar. This thing is insanely bulky. If he brings a Z Free Shock Kyurem, if it's a speed boosting nature, which I think is likely because I don't think he's going to want to be slower than Nidoking, when Kyurem could do so much damage to my team, whether it's, you know, speed boosting or not, I would imagine that he's going to want to, like I said, be speed boosting. And with, if it's Z Free Shock, Mega Tyranitar could take a Z Sub-Zero Slammer with Free Shock, and any other move Kyurem Black wants to go for, unless it's a max attack Iron Head or max special attack. Actually, it doesn't matter if it's max special attack, but or a Focus Blast. But if he brings Z Free Shock, I don't think he's gonna have Focus Blast, because I think the main reason to bring Focus Blast would be just for the Tyranitar, and you know, risking a Focus Blast miss on a Pokemon that can knock Kyurem out with Stone Edge is kind of a dangerous game. This is Cheese Boy we're talking about. It's very unpredictable, so it could happen, but I think it's less likely, because if you're going to bring Focus Blast, like I said, it's going to be for the Tyranitar, and to go with Z Focus Blast will ensure that he knocks me out, whereas regular Focus Blast will not even come close to knocking out Mega T-Tar, and it also will allow him to make sure he hits, which is very important. So that is why I would like him. I would rather him bring Z Free Shock here, because I could actually most likely avoid 2 KOs from anything he wants to go for after that. If he brings something like, you know, Ice Beam, Earth Power, Dragon Claw, whatever it is, I could take those hits, and I could either get on my Rocks, fire off a huge Stone Edge, whatever it is. You may notice I have double Stealth Rocks on this team, and that's because Rocks are pretty important. He doesn't have the greatest means of hazard removal, and 2 of his biggest threats to me in Volcanion and Kyurem Black do not appreciate the Stealth Rocks. So next up we have Latios Heat, the Latios, Choice Specs Latios, we are modest, but we just barely have more special attack than Timid Latios. So we're basically hitting like a max special attack Timid Latios, but the extra bulk lets me lift some important hits. I have enough speed for max Q and Black, and this coverage just really allows me to hit everything on his team quite hard. The Shadow Ball is very important, as hey, stop it. My dog's trying to lick my computer screen. Maybe I need to get this away from her so she doesn't mess anything up. I feel bad. She wants attention, but what am I going to do? So anyway, the Latios has coverage to hit everything on his team pretty hard. Surface for the Mega Steelix, and its dual stabs are not great here, but they could work in the right circumstances. If I eliminate the checks to Dragon Pulse or Psychic, then those become very strong and spammable against him. But Shadow Ball is actually probably the main move that is spammable here. If he doesn't bring Stoutland, or even if he doesn't, I could remove it, then Spec Shadow Ball is very nice against his team, because with Rocks up, it 2-hit KOs most of his team. And it's very nice so Jirachi can't come in and punish me or set up on me. And that's going to be very important, because Jirachi is a big threat to my team. So next up we have Jesse Pinkman, the Raikou, which is another solid Pokemon here, as it just can do a lot of it can do a lot of work to his team or against his team with electric fighting coverage, and it can set up Calm Minds on a fair amount and outspeed most of his team naturally. So that, plus having Protect to be able to get some passive recovery with leftovers, and also being able to pressure stall certain things out, like Calm Mind Jirachi. If he is not able to fit Psyshock, which is probably going to be hard for him to do, and this thing could 1v1 Calm Mind Jirachi. And the bulk is to ensure that I live a +2 Drain Punch from Adamant Hawlucha after Stealth Rocks. So that is pretty important, because I can 1-hit KO with Thunderbolt if the Hawlucha does get out of hand. So next up, and finally, we have James Dellsworth, the Delmise, which is, so okay, I forgot to initially give him a shout out. I was gonna do it after the builder, but I'm gonna just say it now. But Zazo, Iron Flash Gaming, helped me a lot with this team. Normally I don't accept team building help because I like to build on my own, but he knew my week 1 matchup before I did, because he's just a tryhard, and went out of his way to find out who I was playing week 1, and he was like, oh, I built you this team, and he gave me 5 Pokemon, which were the first 5 that I showed you. And he built a very solid team, but I like building on my own, so I was like, you know what, that was really nice of him to do, and he's a fantastic builder, so I'm definitely going to consider these sets. So what I did was, I looked up the matchup myself, and most of the sets that he was giving me ended up being like pretty much what I wanted. I made a handful of changes to those 5 Pokemon, but not anything so major that it would be such a different team. Like, the initial things that he gave me were pretty similar, just different coverage on most of the Pokemon. I think he had different coverage on Celesteela. He didn't have Stealth Rock on Nidoking. He had different coverage on the Tyranitar. He had Life Orb on Latios. Specs is so much better, so I'm happy that I thought of that. And then he had Toxic on Raikou over Calm Mind, but for my mock battles I realized how Toxic could be important, but I realized that Calm Mind would be a lot more useful for something that can get out of hand, like a Calm Mind Jirachi. So he gave me those 5, and like I said, I actually tried to build my own team, and it ended up being really similar to what he initially gave me. It's probably because I already saw his sets and I had them in my mind already, but regardless, I think they were virtually the best sets I could have brought to this match, to make sure that I have checks to everything he could bring, because Cheese is so unpredictable that you don't want to go off of tendencies when it comes to Cheese Boy, because you never know what he's going to do. So I just wanted something as solid as possible. So finally I went with Delmise, because Delmise is kind of like just a support glue Pokemon to this team, as it can check things that can get out of hand quite well, whereas I don't really need it to to win necessarily. Like, a lot of different Pokemon could potentially work in this slot, but I felt as though this can be a really nice check to certain things that can be used to wear down the rest of my team, which could open up other doors for him. So I am a mostly defensive set with Cobra Berry to make sure that I could check a +2 Hawlucha after Stealth Rock. I can live a +2 Acrobatics and Gyro Ball once Hawlucha gets the Unburden boost, and since I have minimum speed, Gyro Ball does minimum 60%, even to a Hawlucha which has like almost max HP. So if Hawlucha ever tries to set up a Swords Dance on me, whatever Pokemon I have in can do enough damage to put it in range where Gyro Ball would knock him out when I go into Delmise next if I'm healthy enough. So that's nice. I can avoid 2 KOs from Adamant Tapu Bulu after Stealth Rocks unless he has a boosting item. I can hit things hard like Jirachi with Shadow Club. Delmise and Stabs just generally have really good power against him because with grassy terrain, Power Whip is going to be crushing things. And then the Gyro Ball and Shadow Claw, just all of its 3 stabs basically, have good coverage against him. So Rapid Spin, lastly, is important as it allows me to, remove hazards, which is important, and gives me more freedom with my own switch-ins. It also spin blocks the Tentacruel, which could be very nice, as keeping up hazards is going to be important against his team. So, without further ado, we will get into the battle portion of the video. Once again, shout outs to Anthony Zazzo, Iron Flash Gaming, for helping me with the team. And yeah, I will move on to the battle now. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for the battle. And don't mind me if I have to stop it mid-recording because my parents might be coming home. And if they come through the basement, then it'll make a lot of noise, so I'll probably pause it. But for now, we will get into this recording. We are up against Taco Man 37, Cheese Boy 628. As you can see, this is me over here, Vegan Boy 628. Because for those of you that do not know, I have become vegan recently, and I am going up against my arch nemesis, not only in Pokemon, in the draft format specifically, but also on the food chain, because I no longer eat cheese, which used to be one of my favorite foods to eat. So he is my arch nemesis in more ways than one now. So he ends up bringing a team which is a little bit different to what most of the things I saw in mocks, which isn't too surprising to me because it is Cheese. As I keep mentioning, he's just very unpredictable. When you want to talk about Cheese, he's a brilliant man. He is a very smart person. When it comes to Pokemon, he is still very smart, but he just doesn't play that often, and he's not someone who's constantly joining leagues and playing in the draft format, so he doesn't have a ton of experience in the format, and he's that type of guy that, like, because he doesn't know what everything does or just doesn't have as much experience, he tends to build teams that a lot of people wouldn't expect and make plays that a lot of people wouldn't expect, which can make him a lot more dangerous than if he did do things that people expected, because then he would kind of play right into their hands. So that's what makes Cheese so dangerous, because he's such a smart guy and he's able to play really well in tight situations, but also the fact that he ends up doing things differently than a lot of people would expect. It really ends up working out for him a lot, and that's why I had to build something that was so middle ground to make sure I could try to play around everything at once. But it's that type of matchup where if he just brings a couple sets that I'm really not expecting that can put the pressure on me, I could easily lose this. So very, very volatile matchup. I am happy with the team that I have, but like I said, it's Cheese, so we will get into this game. He brought the Hawlucha, the Tapu Bulu, so that tells me that's likely going to be a Grassy Seed Hawlucha. He has the Kyurem Black, Tentacruel, Jirachi, and Volcanion. Most of the biggest threats that I was worried about. Mega Steel, which is actually pretty good against my team, but Celesteal is a pretty solid check to that. So other than that, he mostly brought some of the main things I was afraid of. So good on Cheese for his prep. He knew what would be most effective here, and it's looking like a scary matchup. Most of my mocks, what I've been doing is having Latios as a dedicated lead, because nothing on his team can one-hit KO Latios except for maybe like a Scarf Megahorn Tapu Bulu. So Latios could lead against almost everything and fire off some type of attack except for the Kyurem Black, because I think it's going to be a Z move Kyurem Black. It's just so good against me. But if he leads Kyurem, I have a plan for that, because on the off chance that he is Scarf, I am automatically going into Tyranitar, because I can live 2 hits from a Scarf Kyurem Black unless he randomly predicts me to go into T-Tar and goes for Focus Blast. But I can live any 2 hits from a Scarf Kyurem Black and get up my Stealth Rocks with Mega T-Tar. So that is my plan if he does lead Kyurem on my Latios, because also there's a good chance he switches out because he's not Scarf and he goes into something I can get up rocks on, like Jirachi, for example, or in a lot of the other mocks it was Mega Steelix, which even though that hits Tyranitar hard, I could still easily chew a hit and get on my rocks. So we will get into the battle as he leads with his Rizzy Cow, his Kyurem Black, and I lead with Latio Heat. And I'm going to go with the plan like I just mentioned as I go into my Brock Lesnar, the T-Tar, as he goes into Jirachi, and he makes a really wild prediction here, expecting me to go into the Celesteela, and he goes right for the Thunder, probably thinking that I'd be afraid of the Iron Head, which would be annoying if he stayed in just to Iron Head flinch me, but I figured, you know, Tyranitar is so bulky, I could take a whole bunch of Iron Heads, unless he's like Choice Banded Jirachi, and Crunch will do major damage to it. So I just stay in and I go right for the Stealth Rocks. He actually doesn't get the power, which is kind of lucky for me because that's 60% chance to paralyze. But that Thunder just bounces right off of me. So here, I just go for the safe Crunch. I have a feeling he's going to switch out the Jirachi, so Stone Edge would have been, you know, a fine play. It probably would have hit more things, but I just didn't want to risk it missing, and also Crunch could help me scout certain sets. That Crunch damage tells me that he's probably a max defense Tapu Bulu, so this is probably something to check a offensive Azumarill, as that tells me there's a good chance he's going to have Leech Seed and stuff like that, because he's already got both Grassy Terrain and Leftovers Recovery. So he's probably going to be that Tapu Bulu that is going to want to, you know, Leech Seed, maybe Sub, almost definitely going to have Nature's Madness. There's pretty much no question about that, because otherwise he can't really touch Celesteela. His Blue doesn't have Z moves, and he also has Leftovers, so he couldn't have a Z move anyway. So I get some Grassy Terrain Recovery, which is actually kind of nice, as my T-Tar is almost at full. Then I go right into my Bring Selly up over here, because I could go into Delmise, but because he brought both Bulu and Hawlucha, I wanted to keep Delmise a little bit healthier, because those are some of the things that it can check. And if Celesteela could check this well enough, then I don't need to worry too much about going for what's it called? I don't need to worry too much about going for going into Delmise and letting it get weakened. So that's why I went right into Celesteela here, as he goes for the substitute. So now I know almost for sure he's going to go for Leech Seed. He could Nature's Madness here if he would like to, but because he's losing some HP here, I figured he's going to want to go for the Leech Seed here, and he'll be almost at full after this turn. So he does go for the Leech Seed as I go for the Heavy Slam, and I break the substitute, as here he gets some HP back, and as you can see, he is at, you know, 87% already, as here he goes for another substitute, as he's easily, I mean, he's gaining legitimately 25% back from, actually probably more, yeah, he's getting 15 from the Leech Seed, so he's gaining about 27-28% every turn, so he could just spam substitute here. So now I realize I can easily go into my Delmise here, as I don't really mind him going for Nature's Madness too much, as here he goes for the substitute. And I'm going to just go for Gyro Ball, as he actually misses a Toxic here. That is quite unfortunate for him, as it definitely does matter in the sense where Delmise can just stay in and check this Tapu Bulu a lot more easily now. But he wouldn't have been able to stay on Delmise forever, because he can't Leech me, and he doesn't have Grassy Terrain Recovery anymore, so if he just keeps subbing, he's just going to wear himself down. So it doesn't matter too much, but it still sucks because it would have worn me down a lot more quickly than he's able to now. So he stays in and goes for Nature's Madness, and because he's physically defensive, he takes his Gyro Ball quite well, but still not that well. It does 44%. So he's in range of potentially another Gyro Ball, so I know he's going to switch out, because it's very likely that his Hawlucha is going to be Grassy Seed, so he's not going to want to lose his Tapu Bulu. So I go right for the Shadow Claw, and that damage tells me, because I'm actually adamant with 40, or Brave with 40 attack EV, so I have a decent amount of power on this Delmise. That tells me that he's a max Fizz Def Tentacruel, or at least very close to that. So that's probably also to check Azumarill, as now that is good information. I'm just going to stay in, because Delmise is easily my most expendable Pokemon right here. The biggest thing the Toxic Mist really affected is that his Tentacruel is going to be a little bit healthier, but what I would have done here most likely would be go for a Power Whip instead of another Shadow Claw, because Power Whip does a little over 50% to this Tentacruel, where Shadow Claw only does around the mid-30s. So Tentacruel barely would have been healthier if I hit the Power Whip, so it really didn't matter too much in the long run, as here he gets a Sludge Bomb Poison. Not too big of a deal. I might have had a chance to live the next one if it was a roll, I don't know, but most likely not, because I don't have any special defense on this Dhelmise. So here I go right into Nidoking, because I know with his EVs, there's no way he's going to be faster than me. So I go right for the Earth Power here. I know that this Bulu is slower than me, and that Shadow Ball can knock it out from here. So I'm just going to click that in case he wants to be cheeky and go right into Hawlucha. So here he goes right into his Kyurem Black, and I can actually go pretty safely into Tyranitar. As you're going to see, he fires off the Z Free Shock, and look at that. That is nearly a max roll for a speed boosting nature, but it also could be an attack boosting nature too with a low roll. So that kind of roll is annoying because it doesn't tell me exactly what his set is, but I am leaning towards the fact that he would be speed boosting because he was so comfortable going in on my Nidoking right there. So that plus a Grassy Terrain recovery makes it pretty much impossible for him to knock me out right here unless he has Focus Blast. I don't even know if Iron Head would knock me out from this range. As here, I'm just going to go for the safe crunch. I knew he would go into Hawlucha here, or I had a very strong feeling he would. But, like I said, I just want to get a little bit of damage on this Hawlucha, because that could guarantee, or does guarantee, something like Celesteela will knock it out with Air Slash, even if he has a lot more bulk than I'm expecting. So, he goes into the Hawlucha, and I'm able to crunch here. As, now I'm going to preserve my Tyranitar, and he's going to go for the Swords Dance. I had a feeling he would go for the Swords Dance, but that's okay, because I think it would be more likely for him to have Drain Punch, because I have something like Dhelmise, a lot of Pokemon on my team, like, maybe not a lot, but if any Pokemon could run Protect, really, and something like Celesteela runs Protect often. Raikou could run Protect with Calm Mind sets fairly often. It's just not a far cry, you know, just running Protect on things when people have high jump kick Pokemon, but and Drain Punch is really nice for him because it can allow him to stay healthy and potentially set up more SDs, just allowing Acrobatics to just run through my team. But he does actually have the high jump kick, well, as you're going to see shortly. But because I know I can live a high jump kick easily from here, it's not even a roll or anything like that, I'm just going to fire off an Air Slash and not even waste time going for the Protect. If for whatever reason he does crit me, then my course of action would be to go into Raikou and Protect on hopefully another high jump kick. And the Sand plus the high jump kick recoil would knock him out after this Sand's turn. So that would be pretty much my only way to play around this. So if he crits me with high jump kick here, there's a good chance that I just lose. So I really need to not get critical hitted. The critical hit rate on Showdown was recently discovered wrong. It was like 6.25%, but it's actually about 4.2%, something like that. So it's even lower now. So if I get crit here, that would be really, really unfortunate. As he goes for the high jump kick, and it only does 75%, as we are able to knock him out clean with the Air Slash. Thankfully. As here, he goes into the Tentacruel as Tent Poles. As here, I have a feeling he's going to go for the Rapid Spin, which, even if he went for Scald, that would be okay. I have a feeling his Volcanion will not be on an air balloon, but just in case it is, I'm going to go for the Stealth Rocks here, because getting up rocks for both his Kyurem and his Volcanion is very nice, and if he just decides to sack this off and Scald me, it won't do that much damage. Even a crit won't knock me out, so that is nice. The rocks are really important, and with the rocks up, it just gives Latios a much easier time cleaning up this game. So I'm going to go for the Stealth Rock here, as he actually makes a hard switch into Kyurem Black, knowing he could probably live a hit. And here I'm just going to go into Celesteela and sack this off because it is no longer useful. I know his Jirachi has Thunder. Tentacruel Scald may be able to knock it out, and I can't Leech Seed it. Well, I can, but it will take health away from me. And both Volcanion and Kyurem will beat it from that range. So here I'm able to go into Latios. I wanted to just spam Shadow Ball here, but I just figured it's not worth it, because if he stays in Dragon Claws, Ice Beam won't knock me out, but Dragon Claw will, or Outrage or anything like that. So I figured it is not worth stacking my Latios off. I still have a very solid chance to win if I do click Dragon Pulse here. I'm just really afraid of a potential Combine Psyshock Jirachi at this point. So here, I do fire off the Specs Dragon Pulse, and we knock out the Tentacruel, but he still has no idea of what my set is. So here he goes into the Jirachi as I switch out and go into my Tyranitar, as he goes for a Flash Cannon, which will put me in range of another Flash Cannon. But I went into Tyranitar because if he did go for a Combine, as you could see, a +1 Flash Cannon would not knock me out. So I can get off, if he's especially defensive set to check Latios, I can get off more than enough damage to put him in range of a Latios' Spec Shadow Ball with this Crunch here. So unless he crit me with the Flash Cannon, then I would be able to, like I said, fire off the Crunch. And if he was a physically defensive set, then that makes it more likely that, you know, Specs Latios would be able to still do tons of damage with the Shadow Ball. And because he also revealed the Flash Cannon here, that makes it likely that he doesn't have Psyshock, and it also makes it likely that he doesn't have both Psyshock and Wish if he has Combine, because that would be 3 moves and he can't have 5 moves. So that makes it so if he has Combine on this set, then Raikou most likely will beat it, because unless he has Psyshock, then Raikou will beat it. And even if he does have Psyshock, I will be able to get off enough damage on this thing to knock it out, because it can't heal itself up. So I'm going to go down to the next Flash Cannon, and next up I send in my Latios, as here I'm going to go for the Spec Shadow Ball. He switches out, maybe expecting a trick or just to see what I'm going to do, but that actually is better for me, honestly, him switching out there, as it helps me knock out the Kyurem. And here he goes into his Volcanion, which is interesting, and I calc here a Scarf Explosion, or just an Explosion that's unboosted, and I can guaranteed live an Explosion here, unless he's like a max attack Volcanion. So I'm just going to stay in and click Spec Shadow Balls. It's a 2-hit KO from this range unless he's AV, as he actually gets a crit burn on the Steam Eruption, which kind of sucks, but I guess it makes up for the Toxic Miss, which sucked for him. So as you're going to see here, his Jirachi does not end up being Combined. I go for the Shadow Ball here, and I do over 50%, which tells me he's probably a pretty specially defensive set. And he goes for Stealth Rocks here, which tells me he's not a Combined set. So if my Latios had not taken a crit burn there, it would have helped me get a 3-0. As now I know with that bulk, he's most likely not going to be able to outspeed Nidoking. And even if he can, I can live a Psychic from this range, or a Psyshock or whatever. The only thing that would beat me would be, you know, Zen Headbutt Flinch or something like that, if that was his last move. But I'm kind of doubting that, because he's only shown special moves in Stealth Rocks. There's a good chance he's going to have something like U-Turn or Wish or Protect, Healing Wish, something like that. So I go into my Nidoking, and I'm able to outspeed and knock him out with the Earth Power and secure a clean 2-0 victory over my arch nemesis Cheeseboy 628 in what I thought was a very solid battle. Just two players prepped pretty well, played really well, and just, you know, went out in a relatively hacksless game. You know, the Toxic Mist did kind of stink for him, but like I said, the only thing it really made a difference for was his Tentacruel would have been at a little bit of a higher HP if I went for Power Whip instead of Shadow Claw on it and hit the Power Whip. So if I missed the Power Whip, then he could have kept Tentacruel healthier, which may have made a difference, but the Tentacruel lost to most of my Pokemon, and if I was able to set up a Combine on Raikou, then I was just so much of a better spot, because the reason I wasn't as quick to pull the trigger with Raikou was because of a potential Combine Psyshock Jirachi. I didn't want to let that get an opportunity to set up. But once I realized that it had Thunder and Flash Cannon as its moves, I realized that Raikou will almost definitely be able to 1v1 the Jirachi. So the only hacks that really mattered in the game was the fact that I got crit burned by the Volcanion, making it a 3-0, or making it from a 3-0 into a 2-0. But yes, we picked up the win over the Phoenix Sunkern and Cheeseboy for week 1, which is awesome because helped me conquer some of my demons, as Cheese has beaten me in the format more than anyone else has, like by a long shot. He's just been my kryptonite in the draft format. So I have discovered the secret of conquering Cheeseboy. You want to hear it? You want to hear it? That's right, you have to go vegan, because once you become above cheese, once you no longer need the cheese and you don't fall victim to cheese and its luscious, delicious temptation, then you can defeat it. So that is the approach that I took. And like that's really the only reason I became vegan, to tell you the truth. I just wanted to conquer Cheese Boy, and hey, it looks like it paid off in some way, shape, or form. So that is the trick, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to beat Cheese Boy, you gotta go vegan. I mean, you could beat him without it, but it's gonna take a lot more effort. So you might as well just go vegan. So that's all I have to say here. Great start to the season. I'm really happy with that, because Cheese not only is my kryptonite, but he has an amazing team, a really, really scary team. So that was a very volatile matchup that easily could have gone any way, depending on what each person brought. So I'm glad that Iron Flash Gaming did, offer his help without me even asking, because the insight that he gave me really helped me build an optimal team that I think was able to take on close to whatever Cheese wanted to bring. So that worked out quite well, and a big shout out to him. And yeah, next week we have Trev CL and the Houston Toxapexons. Last season we had a really solid game against him, but I was mad because I made a pretty bonehead mistake in that game, which I really think costed me. So I really wanted to get another chance to play him where I, number one, have a better team, but number two, just give him my best game and don't make a stupid mistake, because Trev's a very solid player. And yeah, I want to just give him a solid game. So yeah, we have Trev and the Houston Toxapexons next week. Hopefully we can get another win there and keep the ball rolling. And with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Please do me a favor and check out the rest of the NPL, the channel, the coaches. Cheese Boy's link will be in my description. And definitely go check him out, because he's a very good content creator, just a cool guy. Like I said, brilliant person. And yeah, if you're not subscribed to him, then you're missing out. So without further ado, hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll see you all in the next one later.